One of my favorite things about being a doctor is that doctors collaborate with each other. It's a very welcoming community. I guess it's because we know what's at stake and we want to help our colleagues do their best. So I'm bringing you this episode today, which is a collaboration with Dr. Jessica Hochman. She's a pediatrician and a podcaster too. She sees patients in her office at Oak Park Pediatrics in Oak Park, California, and she hosts the Ask Dr. Jessica podcast, where she shares her knowledge as both a pediatrician and a parent of 3 kids. We had so much fun sharing tips about how to keep kids safe over the summer. Listen on to hear our conversation about why an ugly hat is your most important pool party item and which sunscreens we 2 pediatricians prefer.
Hi, everybody. Today we are joined by San Diego-based pediatrician, Dr. Wendy Hunter. Dr. Hunter is also the podcast host of The Pediatrician Next Door. On today's podcast, you'll hear us share some tips about how to best keep our kids safe over the summer. We talk about things like best practices for sun protection, how to avoid getting pesky mosquito bites, how to swim safely, how to keep our kids from getting overheated, and more. I really enjoyed talking to Dr. Hunter, and please stay tuned for next week's episode, where we continue our conversation, reviewing what you need to know about childhood illness that we commonly see in the summer. Dr. Wendy Hunter, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Hi, Dr. Jessica.
You have such a lovely warmth about you. Your patients must feel so lucky that you're their pediatrician.
Yeah, I think 70% of them love me and maybe the other 30% are not so sure. That's okay. That's like humanity.
That's true, right? You can't get along with everybody, but sometimes you can't read people. So I'll bet those 30% do love you, but they don't have a natural way of showing it.
Yes. You know what they don't like about me is that I'm brutally honest, and I just shared that with you. No, I'm kidding.
I think sometimes parents need that though.
Yes.
I think sometimes they appreciate that.
And I definitely have everyone's best interest at heart.
So I thought this would be a really fun chance to have a conversation about getting ready for summer, because I think there's a lot of predictable pediatric related illnesses and issues that come up every summer. And so I thought, what a great opportunity. We can chat about things that parents need to know so that they can keep their kids safe and out of trouble.
I think that sounds fantastic. I can't wait to compare notes with you.
Me too. I thought we could start off by talking about a topic that a lot of us, especially here in Southern California, where we both practice, keeping our kids protected from sunburn. So let's first talk about that. Do you have any recommendations that you give to families?
So many recommendations that I make, but I do want to start with this. I had a patient yesterday say that they were going to take their 3-month-old on vacation in Tahiti and didn't say anything more. And I said, oh, what about sun protection? And then I had the opportunity to educate, like, you really shouldn't use sunscreen under age 6 months because the babies can absorb all the chemicals. So I kind of start there, but sunscreen's so controversial right now because there's so much in the news about the chemicals. And the truth is the UV lights, I think, are more dangerous, right, to your skin than the chemicals.
I think so too. And I think what's hard is that we don't really know what the bad effects of the sun are until we're much older, until much more time has gone by. So for example, melanomas, we really don't see them in the pediatric population, but they become much more apparent as time goes on and you age. So, and we know that melanomas are directly related to sunburns, especially in the younger years.
Yeah, it's almost like I say, and this is probably just an exaggeration, but to make the point across to my patients, I don't care what you do when you're 25 years old anymore, but as a kid, you really need to prevent sunburns, because if you get bad sun damage when you're young, you get melanoma when you're 40. And if you get bad sun damage when you're 35, you get melanoma when you're 95, and I don't care anymore. You're not my problem. So, and it's, I'm being facetious, but we really need to protect the young skin.
It's true. I actually took my 2 kids to the dermatologist yesterday. I learned a lot from the dermatologist, and he gave us great reminders about how important it is to apply sunscreen and how important it is to not burn. And I learned something interesting yesterday. You ready for this?
Yeah. What'd you learn?
He said, guess where you are more likely to get a melanoma on the body? Where are the most likely spots on the skin where melanomas occur?
Okay. Well, it's got to be the sun exposed areas, like the back of your hands, forehead. Sometimes I think about the part of your hair because we don't protect that, and the ears.
Okay. So that would have been my guess too. But he told me that the most common locations are actually on the chest and the back because people take their shirts off and they get burned there. And so later on in life, that's where the melanomas show up. I had no idea.
And they're not as likely to put sunscreen on. Like I put sunscreen on every day, but I only put it on my face. What about applying sunscreens? Because that I think is really challenging for parents. And they're always asking about how bad the sprays are. But I'm like, whatever you need to do to get that sunscreen on your kid, right?
I agree with you. I think it's all a balance. And I think, yes, at the end of the day, I'd much rather prevent a burn than be concerned with the chemicals. Mm-hmm. However, the zinc oxide is a barrier sunscreen. So you don't have chemical absorption into the body.
Yeah. There are a couple of those mineral sunscreens that are much safer. And they're safer for the environment if you're swimming in the ocean.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes.
Right? You can hurt the reefs apparently with the azobenzo. I can't even pronounce it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a good thing to know.
Yeah. I like the sticks. The sticks are good for the face because you can, it doesn't get in your kids' eyes.
And that's a good suggestion. I like the sticks. I agree. I think just avoiding the sprays on the face. So yeah, creams or sticks, I think are great ideas. I've heard other pediatricians talk about the recommendation about sunscreen being recommended 6 months and older. But I actually agree with you that I think it's better to put on sunscreen if a child needs it when they're little, if it's zinc oxide. Because what's interesting is Desitin, the ingredient that we use for diaper rash creams, is zinc oxide. Even though the official guidelines are to wait to put sunscreen on until 6 months and older, to me, I think it's still okay if a child's going to be in the sun, if they're under 6 months, to apply a zinc oxide.
Yeah, and same with the titanium probably.
Yes, and yes. So the two mineral sunscreens are titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. So if you find a sunscreen with those ingredients, don't be afraid to put them on your children, is what I think we're both trying to say.
And then obviously hats, T-shirts, whatever, clothing, UV protective clothing.
I've heard some dermatologists say that clothing is probably even better than sunscreen.
Oh, that's great. I've had 2 patients just this month have sun allergy, which
interesting.
I hadn't seen in a while. But yeah, if you haven't been out in the sun in a while, some kids are allergic when they first are exposed for the season.
That's really interesting. I've seen solar urticaria or hives that come from the sun.
Oh yeah, I have never seen that. That's a good one too.
Yeah, I struggle with this because I do like a little bit of sun, to be honest. I like feeling, the ambient air and a little bit of sun on my skin.
Well, plus you're getting a little vitamin D.
That's
so
true.
Not the right way to get your vitamin D, but you do technically.
That's true. Yes, and so I agree with you. I think clothing is really good. Hats are really important. The other thing the dermatologist reminded me yesterday is that it's really important to wear sunglasses, which honestly I don't wear enough.
I was just going to ask you about that because yes, you can get melanoma in the back of your eye, right?
You can. Ugh. There's so much to worry about. And I should wear them more because at least sunglasses, they look good too.
Right. Yes. They hide my bags.
I don't see any bags.
Can't see that well, probably.
So sunglasses.
Getting a child to wear sunglasses. Oh, Lord.
That's true. I guess we can ask. We can try. And it was good too for the dermatologist to say it to my kids where it wasn't coming from me, for him to remind them to wear hats and sunglasses, especially while hiking, while in any kind of bright light, sunglasses are beneficial. He reminded me that it prevents against macular degeneration when you're older. So that's something that we don't see as pediatricians, but a good reminder.
Yeah. And it is our role to help prevent things in the kids as they grow up. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that either.
Absolutely. Yes. There's endless to worry about, right? So I think at the end of the day, prevention is the key.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do you like going out in the sun?
I do. It definitely brightens my mood. I'm at the coast and we've had so much cloudy cover recently. It's just depressing. So yeah, I do.
Yes, I agree.
Not a lot, but yeah. And I garden. I'm a big gardener. So I spend a lot of time in the sun that way.
That's so healthy for you.
Mm-hmm. The soil, the plants, absolutely.
And the other tip for parents, just something that I've made the mistake of before, is making sure when you apply sunscreen to get all the spots. So specifically, the ears are easy to miss, behind the neck. Those are tricky spots that often get forgotten. So just making sure you apply everywhere on the body.
Yeah, I had a dermatologist friend suggest using sunscreen powder in your hair part because you can't really cover that well.
Can I tell you, I've never heard of sunscreen powder. That's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can keep it in your purse and just reapply in the afternoon. Like if you put on sun protection every morning with your moisturizer, yeah, good way to put it on the afternoon, a little bronzer with sunscreen.
That's a good point.
I liked that tip from her. Yeah.
All right, so we got some good groundwork reminding parents how important sunscreen is, being in the shade, wearing clothing, and being mindful to protect our kids against sunburns.
Perfect.
Anything else that we didn't cover? I think that was a pretty good summary.
No, we covered it all. We're geniuses.
We covered it all. Okay, so the next question is insect bites. Every summer, the mosquitoes are here in full force. Let's talk about how we can keep our kids best protected from mosquito bites and insect bites.
I did a lot of research on this.
You did?
I was writing a blog post about it. Yeah. So it's a little embarrassing how much I once knew and I've probably forgotten most of it. But my big takeaway was I was shocked to learn that DEET is quite safe. And
isn't that true?
I mean, I don't know where I got the idea that it was a dangerous chemical, but it is completely safe. And it is a fantastic insect repellent and it should be our go-to.
I love that you said that because it's been around forever.
Forever, yes.
And they've never found a link to it causing anything damaging.
No. And you can put it on a really young child. I mean, I think it's down to like 2 months or something.
I agree. I think at first blush, it sounds like something you want to avoid because it is a chemical. Mm-hmm. But it's so much better to use an insect repellent that works rather than deal with the mosquito bite on the other end.
Yeah, because a lot of these biting insects do carry diseases, and we do honestly need to protect our kids, not just from the itch, but from potential diseases.
The other thing is, I know it sounds nice to use a natural product. I'll hear things about peppermint oil and essential oils. I've tried them myself. I've tried them on my kids, the stickers, but genuinely, I find they don't work very well.
They don't. And even in studies, it shows that they don't work well. So the top ones, I guess, are picaridin and DEET, and then permethrin that you can put on your clothes directly.
Oh, so interesting.
That's my recommendation probably is to get treated clothes for your kids.
Oh, I like that. That's a great suggestion.
DEET on the uncovered parts like ankles, wrists.
So spray the clothes directly?
Yeah. So you can buy a repellent that you wash your clothes with, and I think it lasts somewhere around 7 washes. Or you can buy clothing that's already impregnated with the bug repellent, or you can send your own clothes off to a couple of companies that will do it. And those last like 40 washes. So.
Okay. That's great to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's great
to know. I did my crazy research.
I like it. No, thank you. I love learning more about preventing mosquito bites because honestly, yes, of course, number one, you want to prevent against the potential that the mosquito's carrying a disease. But also, I just find mosquito bites to be so uncomfortable. They're such a nuisance.
They're miserable and kids scratch them and they get infected. So yeah. So then bug zappers around your house are probably fine.
Clothing also?
For sure. Keeping covered. Mm-hmm.
I think keeping covered makes a big difference. We have these ankle biters. I don't know if you notice them as much in San Diego. I'm sure they're there, but we have a lot of ankle biter mosquitoes. So I really think it helps to wear high socks, pants. I think that's a great way to deter mosquito bites as well.
You know, what's funny is at the beginning of the season, we don't see a lot of bugs like through the winter here. Well, anywhere. And parents come in with these mysterious rashes, right? And it turns out to be bug bites. But the way I usually identify it is from those ankle biters because they bite in a row. So they usually have that pattern of like breakfast, lunch, dinner, where the same bug bit you a couple of times. So parents can look for that if they're worried about what a weird, mysterious rash is.
That's such a great tip. I always look for the 3 in a row, but saying it as breakfast, lunch, dinner, I really like that. I'm going to be borrowing that.
And sometimes a couple of snacks, right?
And sometimes a couple of snacks, yes. And then do you have recommendations for people to apply it to their face? Because I know a lot of people feel uncomfortable spraying it directly on the face or applying it on the face.
What do you do? Have them spray it in the hands and then rub it on their face?
Yes. I was going to say spraying in the hands and then rubbing it directly on the face.
Yeah. It's tough too because you want to make sure that you get the bug repellent off your kids' palms because you don't want them to eat it.
Yes.
So I guess you spray it in your hands and rub it on their face.
There's so much to think about.
Yeah. You do want to wash their hands, the kids' hands, if it's on there before they eat.
Yes. And also, even though it's been shown to be safe on our children, when they come back into the home, I have them take a shower, take their clothes off, and clean their bodies before going to bed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good plan.
Yes.
Plus, it saves your bed sheets from being oily.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So, do you just keep some DEET around the house just in case?
You know what? I don't have any bug spray at all. Yeah. I like the wipes. I usually take those camping or traveling, the bug repellent wipes, because those are really convenient.
Yes. I actually dropped my kids off for camp this morning. They're going to be gone for quite a while. My 2 oldest kids are going to be gone for a month. And so I made sure to send them with enough sunscreen and bug repellent.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for you for, challenging them to be independent.
Thank you. Thank you. So I did give them some of the spiel this morning, making sure that they cover their bodies with both sunscreen and bug repellent.
You took them to camp this morning?
This morning.
Oh,
Yes.
You doing okay?
I am doing okay, actually. Maybe too good.
Right. Looking forward to some free time.
Yes.
I know what you're going to do. You're going to clean out closets, right?
I already started this morning. How did you know? I already started.
Mm-hmm.
I have a goodwill pile. You read my mind.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. That's so funny that you say that, because literally this morning I was thinking I should be making them a really nice send-off breakfast. And instead I was showing them papers. Do you still need this? Do you still need that? So you read my mind.
After my own heart. Yep.
Okay. And the other thing about mosquito bites, I think being mindful of where to find mosquitoes, I think that's helpful. So you know when to be more cautious. So they love to come out at dusk and dawn. They love to be by stagnant water that's not moving. So I think that's also helpful, just to be aware where mosquitoes like to be.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And the time of day, most of our mosquitoes come out around 5 p.m. So if you can just go in for that little brief period of time, like 5:36, they're gone.
It's so hard though. That's the perfect time of day to be out.
Yes, it is.
But it's not too sunny.
They know it.
It's the most beautiful time of day. They know it. Okay. So that was very helpful. Now, this is also something just the pediatricians and us, I think this is a very worthwhile topic to bring up, but preventing swim accidents, being safe around water. Do you have any suggestions you'd like to start the floor with?
Okay. Pools are in my top 3 scariest things for a pediatrician, right?
I agree.
Maybe top scariest thing besides maybe cars or something, but just the most devastating injuries to children.
It can happen so quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you and I both know we've seen 4-year-olds who drowned. And I think my biggest warning, and we can get all into swim practices and safety, is that those classes for the young kids, they actually don't prevent drowning. I did do the early swim lessons with my son under 18 months where they're supposed to teach him how to float. But then I looked at the data, it doesn't make a difference. So that was really disheartening to me. So you just have to be super vigilant all the time around pools, especially when you're away from home. Like if you're at grandparents' house and they have a pool, or, you're traveling, Airbnb, whatever you're at. I think those are the times I'd be most vigilant, because at home you're going to have a fence, right? So I don't know, that we can just start there.
It's true. I always say that it's so important for somebody to be in charge, because all too often there'll be a party or you'll be at your grandparents' home, as you mentioned, and people aren't paying attention. You think that you're paying attention, but it's easy to get distracted. So I like having a handoff where, for example, you say to your husband, you're in charge right now. And then if he has to, leave the pool, go to the restroom, he then does a handoff to you. Now you're in charge. I'm going inside to use the restroom or whatever, for whatever reason he has to leave.
I love that. I always talk about the crazy hat. So you just have like the ugliest hat around, and whoever's wearing the hat is in charge of watching the pool for all the kids.
That's a good one.
Because then you like literally have something to hand off. I did pull a kid at a party. We were at a baby shower. I pulled a 6-year-old out of the pool. I just happened to glance at the pool and I saw this arm just flailing, and I just jumped in my clothes and grabbed her. I couldn't believe she was 6 years old.
Thank goodness you were paying attention.
Mm-hmm. It could have happened in front of a party of 40 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I can think of 2 drowning accidents that have been terrible where they happened during a party when people just weren't paying attention.
Oh my God. Devastating.
Yes.
So yeah, the hat trick is my big tip.
I like it. I'm picturing a big, colorful, fun hat.
Like the ugliest thing you can find, yes.
I'm going to get one. I'm going to look for one.
Yeah. What other tips do you have about pool safety?
Okay, so a couple things. And number one, I think, is just supervision. Swim lessons, of course, are important, but as you mentioned, they're not foolproof. Mm-hmm. Because I think about how often and how easy it is for kids to fall into the pool with clothing on. If you ever try to swim in a pool with clothing on, it's really difficult.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
So for little kids, that's such a risk for them. So even though you might think that your kid is pool safe, in certain situations, they might not be as safe as you think.
Yeah. That's a big point we want to drive home. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then the other thing is, I think it's just really important to have a fence. I have a lot of families that have fences, but then a good amount don't. And I don't know if they're worried about the aesthetics, but it's so important to have a fence. I can't stress that enough.
Right. Like to get your pool approved, you have to have a fence when they give you your permits, but everyone takes them out.
Is that right?
Yes, yes. Or alarms on your doors, that will also pass inspection, but you can just take them right off because they're annoying.
Wow. Yeah. What do you think about pool covers? Some people want pool covers because they're not as visually distracting as a fence.
Yeah, my brother-in-law has one, and his wife is literally a pediatrician. So that was their solution too. Yeah, so you guess you fall on the pool cover. That's probably not a bad option.
Yeah, I've heard, from what I read, it's not a bad option, but there is the possibility of, let's say, a heavy rainstorm where it accumulates some water on top, and kids can drown in a very small amount of water. So while it's unlikely, that's just something to keep in mind.
Oh God, that's terrifying. Mm-hmm.
It's all terrifying, right? Mm-hmm. We have a patient who they were at their grandparents' home and the little child crawled through the doggy door and drowned.
Oh gosh. I know we had an OB doctor, like a doctor mom, their 4-year-old, they were at grandma's house getting ready for her father's funeral and no one was paying attention. The 4-year-old wandered into the backyard and drowned.
Oh my goodness. I mean, honestly, I think there's nothing sadder.
Mm-mm.
And
so preventable. So here, I didn't have a pool until my kids were over like 7 or 8 years old. So we purposely bought a house that had no pool.
Really?
When they were young, yeah, because I was an ER doctor at the time and freaked out. And then, we didn't put a pool until much, much later.
I think these are the problems that come with being a pediatrician, being a pediatric ER doctor.
Yeah, we've seen too much to be afraid of. So trampolines, same thing. I'm a little nervous about trampolines.
Really?
You're not going to die on a trampoline, but you're going to break something.
Yes. I actually have a trampoline. My husband's really into the kids moving and getting exercise, and it's a fun way to do it. So we have a trampoline, but we have rules around it. We have to have a net around the rim, and we also have a limit to how many kids can be on the trampoline at once.
Number one best tip, yes. So good for you for having the rules, but the number of children on the trampoline is directly correlated with increased fracture risk.
Okay, thank you. Good to know. I don't know that we enforce it well enough, so this is a good reminder for me.
Yeah.
And last, in terms of prevention of problems during the summer for our kids, being in the hot sun. I know for my kids at camp, for example, I'm concerned that they're going to be in hot sun for a lot of the day. What are some ways that we can prevent our kids from getting overheated or, worst case scenario, heat stroke?
Oh my gosh, that's so tough. My only tip is hydration, so give them a water bottle and maybe make a mark on the water bottle so that you remember to look and see like that they drink all the way down to that mark by, an hour outside or something.
That's a great tip because it's true. It is easy to forget to drink.
And bring along some fruit. Fruit is a great hydration source, popsicles. Try and make it fun. Good. I don't really have any other tips except to stay hydrated,
I'll tell my kids too to look at their urine to make sure it's not too concentrated, to make sure they're going enough and that it's clear, because I think that's a good indicator if they're drinking enough. Okay, it's also sort of a fun game to play.
Kid will look at the color of their urine and report it, right? Hey, my urine's clear, guys. Which one's the pediatrician's kid?
That's right. I literally reminded them this morning. They all nodded. They acted like they understood what I was saying. So hopefully that's okay.
My kids used to jump on the bed and yell, "I'm not going to break my arm."
Our poor kids.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yes. And then just reminding them to stay cool. I think sometimes, you can tell when you're getting overheated. And so just being mindful to look for shade, staying cool, bring fans, drinking enough water. I think all of that's really important, especially in these hot summer months.
They need to tell us if they have a headache, which they may not notice.
That's
true. That would be a first sign of heat illness.
That's true. And when we talk about heat stroke, that's actually when you get so hot that the body temperature actually is elevated. You can feel confused. You can feel really fatigued. You can have a very bad headache. And I think if you are concerned that a child has heat stroke or anybody's had heat stroke, you actually want to call 911.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And it's not a fever. If you take the temperature and it's high, it's hyperthermia. It's heat stroke. It's not a fever. That's dangerous.
It's a good reminder. Gosh. All right. So I think that's a really good summary of things to think about in terms of preventing getting into trouble over the summer for our kids.
It's perfect.
And I really appreciate all your tips. I'm going to keep thinking about breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Thanks, Jessica. To hear part 2 of our conversation, Check out the Ask Dr. Jessica podcast, episode 143, A Parent's Guide to Common Summertime Illnesses. And be sure to check out her other 141 episodes for parents. If you enjoy The Pediatrician Next Door, please leave me a rating and review. It helps other parents to find this show. For more from The Pediatrician Next Door, find me on the web at pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com. If you've got a question about the weird things kids do, send an email to hello@pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com for a chance to hear your voice on the show. I'm Dr. Wendy Hunter, and I'm the Pediatrician Next Door. This show is produced by Red Rock Music. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever it is you're listening. I'll be back next time with more.